I would like to show you today how to do lattice multiplication. First of all, when you do lattice, you're going to draw yourself a lattice frame, and this is what a lattice frame looks like. You start by making a rectangle and then splitting that rectangle in half if you're doing a two-digit number. And now you can put your two-digit number up on top of each of the rectangles. So let's say we have the number 64. And each of those two numbers is on top of one of the rectangles. And we're going to multiply the number 64 times 3. So the 3 is going to go along the side. Now each of those rectangles actually needs to be cut in half diagonally. So we're going to go corner to corner and then outside of it just a little bit. Corner to corner and then outside a little bit. Now our lattice box is ready and we can go ahead and multiply 64 times 3. It honestly doesn't matter if you do the 4 times 3 first or the 6 times 3 first. You can go in either order. So let's start today with doing 6 times 3. Well, 6 times 3 is a basic fact, and I know that 6 times 3 equals 18. So I'm going to put a 1 and an 8 in my box. And you'll notice that to make that 18, it's kind of a little bit lopsided with each number in its own triangle. Now we have 4 times 3, which equals 12. And I'm going to do the same thing again and put it a little bit lopsided in those triangles. Now that I have my numbers all filled inside of the box, I am going to make take a piece of paper actually, and that piece of paper can cover up my work except for on the diagonals. I'm going to line it up along those diagonal lines to help me figure out the answer to my problem. Now, if you don't have a piece of paper to lay over the diagonal lines, you can just use your hand just as easily. So all I want to take a look at is what's in those triangles. So looking at the triangle, I can see that I have a 2 all by itself. I'm only going to do the numbers inside of the triangles, nothing from the outside. So if I have the 2 all by itself, 2 plus nothing else is 2. So I'm going to write that down here below the box. I'm going to slide the box over to the next set of diagonals, and this time I have a 1 and an 8. And I'm going to add those two numbers together. 1 plus 8 equals 9. I'm going to write that down below. And then I'm going to move my paper or my hand one last time, and I have 1 plus nothing else. So I'm going to put a 1 on the outside. And I can read the answer to my problem by kind of coming around this curve right here, and my answer to 64 times 3 is 192. Pretty easy. So I'm going to show you what happens if we have our lattice box, and this time our numbers are a little bit different. So I start by making my rectangle and cutting it in half. I'm going to put my numbers up on top, and this time I'm going to do 52, and I'm going to multiply it by 4. And now I'm going to split those diagonal boxes in half. Here we go, corner to corner. Now this time, one of my numbers, when I multiply that 2 from the top times the 4 on the side, 2 times 4 only gives me a single digit number, 8. And I have 2 triangles to fill in. Well, in front of that 8 is actually a 0. It's kind of an imaginary 0. So I'm going to fill in my first triangle with the 0, and then my second triangle with the 8 for an answer of 8. So now we can do 5 times 4. 5 on top, 4 on the side, multiply those two together, and we get an answer of 20. I'm going to put my 20 in, and now that I have all of my boxes all set to go, I am able to once again make my paper here, or you can use your hand, and I have my box that will help to cover things up for me. And so I look only at my triangles. 8 is inside of my triangle and there's nothing else, so 8 plus nothing is 8. Sliding my paper or my hand over, I have 0 plus 0, which equals 0. And the last triangle says 2 plus nothing, and 2 all by itself is 2 for an answer. So I can read the answer to my problem of 52 times 4. It comes around the corner saying 208. Let's take a look at another problem. Now this time we have something a little bit different. So I'm going to start by making my rectangle and splitting it in half. My numbers this time are going to be 67 times 8. And I'm going to cut both of my rectangles in half with a diagonal line. Now that I have my lattice frame all set up, I can go ahead and start to multiply my basic facts. 7 times 8 is a basic fact that equals 56. So I'm going to put my 5 up top, my 6 down below. And now I have 6 times 8 is 48. Put my 4 on top and my 8 down below. Now that all of my boxes are filled in, this is where I can go ahead and take my piece of paper. And here's my paper. And now I can start to add up my rows on the diagonal. So 6 plus nothing else is 6. I'm going to write it down. Sliding over. 8 plus 5. Well, 8 plus 5 is 13. That's a 2-digit number. And I only have room to put a 1-digit number in each of these diagonal rows. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide my paper over again. I am going to put down the 3 from the 13, and I'm going to carry a teeny tiny 1 to the next place over, the next diagonal line over. So now when I go to my next row of triangles, I have 4 that was already in there, plus the little 1 that I carried over from the previous row, and 4 plus 1 makes 5. So now when I look at my answer, I have an answer of 536 coming around the corner. What I'm going to show you today is what happens if you have double digit. Well, if you have double digit times double digit, you're going to make your lattice frame a little bit larger. You're going to start with a square. You're going to cut that square in half, both directions, so it almost looks like a window. And now you are going to write down the numbers that you plan to multiply. 2 digits on top, 2 digits on the side. I've got 37 on top, 46 going down the side. And now I can go back in and draw my diagonal lines. Remember, you're going from corner to corner in each box. And this one's kind of interesting because we start at the top corner and go all the way through to the bottom corner in that middle section. So same thing here that we've been doing. We take a number from the top and a number from the side. We multiply them together to find the basic fact, and we fill in the square. So let's start with 4 times 7. The number from the side, the number from the top. That equals 28. I'm going to put a 2 in the top and 8 in the bottom. I'm going to do 4 times 3 next. 4 times 3 is 12. Put a 1 and a 2. I'm going to move down now to the bottom row. I have 6 on the side and 7 on the top. I have an answer of 42. And my final box to fill in is 3 times 6, which is 18. So I'm going to put a 1 and an 8. Now that I have all of those taken care of, I can go ahead and take my piece of paper or my hand or whatever tool I'm using to help me keep track of my rows, because now that I have a lot more to deal with, I really need to make sure that I am being very careful to only add up the numbers that come in each of those columns, those diagonal columns. So when I look at my first one, it's very simple. 2 plus nothing else is 2. When I slide it over, this time I'm actually adding up 3 different boxes, 3 different little triangles all together in the same column. I have 8 plus 4 plus 8. Well, I know that 8 plus 8 is 16, and if I add on 4 more, that gives me 20. A 2-digit number cannot fit in a spot that's just intended for 1 digit. So I'm going to put down the 0 from the 20. I'm going to slide my paper over, and now the 2 from the 20 gets carried to the next row over, a teeny tiny 2. And so now in my next row over, I have 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1. So that's 2, 4, 6 plus 1 makes 7. 7 comes right on the outside. And now I can move my paper for that final spot. And 1 plus nothing is 1. That got a little funny there, but 1702 is my answer as I kind of come around the corner. My answer is 1702. So hopefully this helps you to see a little bit more clearly how lattice works, and especially what to do if you end up having a 2-digit number and you can carry that second number over to the next column. Hope this helps.